Well, I don't know if you know it, but it's Responsible Gambling Week, and here in the Isle of Man there's a big event being put on by SMP down at Noa. With me is a gentleman who's come across to talk about this. I mean, talk about what? Not gambling, being careful what you're doing about the gambling, which bit of it?
Yeah, I mean, what we know is that most people can gamble and can stay in control, but there's an ever-increasing number who can't. So what we're coming over is to give an example maybe of a couple of people who can't and tell a story about that, but also it's all about raising standards and just making sure that any operators who are on the Isle of Man, the same as the UK or anywhere else, are making sure that they're looking after their vulnerable customers.
Okay, the Isle of Man's got a lot of e-gaming. Is that what you're interested in being here particularly? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we were asked to come over as experts. We do a lot of stuff across sort of professional sport and high vulnerable sectors like the armed forces and criminal justice, etc. But we also do more and more with the gambling industry. So the fact that there is a growing number of operators over here, I think it's an audience who have probably got a message they need to hear.
Okay, and you got sports people who got personal messages. Are sports people more likely to be gamblers, or is there a target area?
Yeah, well, we work across the 6 sectors where most problems exist. So financial services would actually be number 1.
Oh, we've got a few of those.
Right, well, that's where most are. Professional sport, along with kids, is probably number 2 and number 3.
Right.
And then you've got other sort of high adrenaline, high octane places, such as the armed forces, such as the criminal justice system.
Armed forces?
Yeah, there's a lot. So we've worked with 3,500 soldiers this year. So again, to put it very crudely, to go away on operational duty, it provides a certain adrenaline, and there's only certain things that will try and replicate that adrenaline when they come back, and one of those is kind of online gambling in particular.
Is it an addictive nature, personality that, I mean, you could be an alcoholic, you could be a gambler. Is it that sort of thing? Yeah,
I mean, I certainly think some occupations will feed an addiction more, and often, within sport, within prisons, within armed forces, etc. There is that adrenaline side of it, where you're trying to replicate the buzz of playing in front of 60,000 people or being in armed combat, etc. So yeah, I think there is an element of that, but it is a non-discriminatory addiction. I think it can affect anybody at any time in any sector.
Now, we will start with maybe a little flutter. At what point, and do you point that out? When does it cross the line?
Yeah, I mean, nobody would go across that line intentionally. There is no plus points of being a problem gambler. I was a problem gambler. There is no plus points, and I don't remember the point where I exactly went from being a recreational gambler in control to being a problem gambler. But you're far more likely to be a problem gambler if you've never been educated about it, if you're not making informed decisions about it, and that's what we do as a company with Epic. We go around, and our whole aim is to stop people getting to the edge of that cliff, to stop being in one of those 4 places, such as bankruptcy or relationship breakdown or prison or suicide, which we deal with all day, every day now. So it's all, for me, it's all about education and making sure that people can make informed decisions.
In the old days, finding a casino, getting a membership, especially in the UK, a bit easier over here, but in the UK you had to do 48 hours before you could gamble. Now it's just gives you a credit card and you're away, right?
Well, exactly that. I mean, you can place a bet now within 12 seconds on any one of over 2,000 betting sites worldwide now. It's so easy. When I started gambling, you had to go into a bookie shop and you had to pay in cash, and that was the way it was in 1994. Nowadays you can go on and you can place a bet 24/7 anonymously without anybody knowing that you're doing it, and that sort of hidden anonymous sort of accessibility is the thing that I think is really pushing the rate of addiction up.
Yeah. People have got to know when to ask for help, I'm guessing, because as you say, it's a gamble, it's a bit more, you pass a point. But you reached out, and you're telling other people to reach out, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think if you feel that you're spending too much time gambling, or if you're feeling too much, you're spending too much money gambling, then you absolutely should speak to somebody about it. I think in the whole of the UK and everywhere else, it's a case where people are now talking about mental health issues, they're talking about depression, they're talking about anxiety. Gambling's still a dirty word. Gambling's still something that people won't talk about. And actually, the earlier you talk about it, the far less likely you will end up in some kind of rock bottom with it.
And rock bottom is, I mean, when no one's got anything left and they're still wanting to bet every day and they just can't stop it.
Absolutely. When you become a pathological gambler, as we call it, which is a disorder now, it's a world-renowned disorder and addictive behaviour. You get to that point, you will not care where you get your money from, you'll not care how much time you're spending, you'll not care about your family, your friends or anything like that. You'll just bother about where your next bet is. And with that in mind, it becomes very, very dangerous. And I think the point is, at that point, is if you get to that point, it's too late. You need to start exploring your relationship earlier, and actually it starts with an education piece before you're even a gambler in the first place, in schools as far as we're concerned. But even for the generation above the sort of school kids that we've got now, they won't have had any education either, and yet the whole industry has boomed. So I think it's important that people make informed decisions and just start speaking about it, have that conversation.
Fascinating talking to you today, and obviously people have got their stories to tell. Now, if someone's watching this and they're thinking they might just be needing your services or other people's, where should they go?
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily come to us. We are very much preventers. So where we're educators and preventers, we're not treatment providers. But I know that SMP are working very closely with Motivate, who are the GAM care provider on the island, and we would really urge, it's not a case where you'll go away for a 28-day clinic or anything like that. You'll just start to explore your relationship gambling with their counsellors. And often it can just be an initial conversation, or it can be a period of six times you go and see somebody. It doesn't mean that you're a nutcase or anything like that. It just means that you are actually doing the brave thing and speaking about it before it gets out of hand.
And I suppose you're never quite over it, like an alcoholic in that sense. You've got to be always aware of it.
You have got to be aware of it. I mean, there's two schools of thought. One is the sort of Gamblers Anonymous route, that you will never ever be anything but a problem gambler and you've only ever arrested it. We firmly believe at Epic that you can recover from it, but we're not naive either. 9 out of 10 pathological gamblers will relapse at some point, so we always keep it very much as a thorn in our sides. And I think it actually helps with the work we do with this. We go around and enforce the messages around safer gambling, and I think that helps my team. We've got 5 of the higher profile rock bottoms, if you like, within gambling, and the audience here will hear one tonight. But I think just with anybody, it's a case of just speak. Just say to somebody, if you think they're gambling too much, are you okay? And then ask them again. And if gambling's the reason that they're not, then it's far better to catch it early.